Hey viewers, Hexcraft here, and happy Pride Month. Today I wanted to cover some champions in League of Legends that are either canonically or implied to be a part of the LGBTQ plus community. Mostly because there are a few champions Riot has made gay, but stopped talking about entirely. And there's some they just, well, hint heavily at, but never give us anything about it. Before we get started though, a few things. First off, the images you will be seeing are either from Skin Spotlight, straight from Universe, or the LoL fandom wiki. I will have a link in a pinned comments down below. Second off, this is not fully hardcore list of every champion and every lore skin, because, well, that would have taken me a lot longer probably to sort through everything. So if I missed your favorite champion or favorite skin, leave a comment down below and I'm sorry. Third off, I'm going to avoid any of the "a writer once said this" comments. Yes, the writers wrote the lore and the designers made the characters, but this is going off of canon, and technically speaking, Riot Studios has the right to say what's what. Plus, sometimes, as many people on the internet know, that's bullshit, because when you hear someone says "a writer once said," you have to go search probably for the source. And for an example, someone said that in an old article on a forum that's no longer available, a writer once said Jace had a girlfriend. That girlfriend was going to be the next AD champion. That champion was Vi. So yeah, sometimes what writers say might no longer be canon. It might be outdated. It might be their own headcanon. Or, you know, it might be someone on the internet telling you what they say is a writer's comment. So I'm going to try avoiding those. And finally, you're going to hear a lot of me saying she's lesbian, he's gay, she's bi, and all that. And that's more because when it comes to pansexual, transgender, and asexual, it's a lot harder to identify the champion, unless Riot says so, honestly. Don't get me wrong, there are some champions I will name and state that they might be the sexualities. In fact, the asexual one might have a bit of controversy. But yes, there will be some. Apologize there's not more. And to that one person out there, because I know you're out there, I'm not putting Malphite on here as asexual just because he technically reproduces asexually. Now, before we get started though, I also want to mention that this is going to be broken into 4 parts in this video. Stories, voice and lore hints, skins, and the elephant in the room. Stories being champions who have actual stories that basically go over them being the sexuality, whether it's for a Pride event, their release, or an update. Voice lines and lore hints are that entirely. Little hints from the lore that describe it. Voice lines basically tell us or give us really good hints about it. Those things. Skins is separated from the others because these are technically not canon, they are their own universe. However, one technically crosses over to lore, and well, technically 2 of them do, so it's complicated. And finally, the elephant in the room. We'll get there when we get there, and it was the biggest pain to research and write about. With that all said, let's begin with story. Starting off with story, this is going to be pretty simple. There technically is only 4 stories, 6 champions in total. I will also be going over these stories and giving my opinion on them. So first off, we have Cassante, and right away, his story is really good, and it's straightforward told to us, especially in his intro video we got, Defeat Your Monster. We saw his sexuality before we saw his kid, which I think is pretty nice, because Riot did it in a really good way. Felt like a real story and didn't feel forced. And then, honestly, his color story we got, he actually sits down with his ex and they just have a chat and realize that he is a better person now after what happened. It's a good story, and honestly, it's an amazing champ. Really good work. Next up, though, is the story and champions everyone was so happy to get a story for, Leona and Diana. And honestly, I am really happy with these two because their lore was complicated. You see, Diana and Leona's lore has always been something of they're enemies. They were friends. They didn't know each other. They're somewhat friends. They're somewhat enemies. And now this. It's been a complicated journey in their lore. And I'm actually happy we finally have a real story that doesn't feel as much of a mess. Besides this, though, I will also mention a quick skin thing. because I didn't have any room in the skin section. I thought it'd be random to put all that way down there. But quick skin thing. High Noon Leona actually will state after killing Diana, basically saying, my Diana. So yeah, really nice touch. Next up, we have Twisted Fate and Graves. And this story, it's okay for what it is. But in my opinion, it felt overbloated. It's a story about them trying to steal weapons, trying not to blow themselves up in the building. They run to an old friend, a bunch of back and forth between them and the friends group, remembering the events of the Sentinels event, which, technically the fact that they might be heading to Ishtal in the lore, and on top of it all, it was a teaser for Neela. Again, it's a good story, and them being what I assume is bisexual from the sounds of it, it's fine. I just feel like this is enough content in this story that Riot could have just made 2 stories instead. But again, it's an okay story, and it's fine for what it is. And now finally, we have Varys. More specifically, Volmar and Kai. It's a great story, and it's more or less stretched out between his lore, 2 comics, and a video, which is great, but it makes it really difficult to give a good description of the story. So here's the most quick, basic rundown. Volmar and Kai are 2 gay hunters from Ionia. They go to visit family. Noxians attack. One of them gets hurt. The other takes them to the magic well to try to fix him. A darkens inside, and they more or less mold the bodies together to form a new body. Now they're trying to either get control and more or less rid themselves of Varys, or Varys is looking for more dark. Like I said, it's a bit of a mess, but to be fair also, this story came out I'd say the first time the Dark King got their lore changed. Heck, fun little fact, if you look back at this story when it came out first, this was when Darkin were considered not of this world, a invading entity. This was before they returned into corrupt descendants, so you gotta give them slack on a bit how messy it is, but Riot really should update it, which, fun fact, in the lore page, for Varys, they did update it, so, but they also never announced they updated it, so yeah. Always keep an eye out for when Riot does that. Next up, we have the voice lines and lore hints. These are the champions, again, who have lines in either League of Legends or Legends of Runeterra that hint at their lore, because yes, those are technically canon as well. And again, these are hints that are in their lore stories and such. But starting off, one of the ones that are somewhat well known is Rel. Rel is interesting because she has 4 lines. 2 for guys, 2 for girls. It being Set, Echo, Leona, and Seraph. Pretty straightforward, very simple. Moving on, we have Nico and Nidalee. And I decided to put them together more or less in this topic because their lines sort of interact with each other. Nico is honestly very well known to be lesbian. Nidalee, on the other hand, until she got her new voice line updates, it was unsure. But the line really does hint that Nico and Nidalee had time together, so Nidalee probably is also into Nico, so there you go. Next we have Nami, which you probably saw the poster for the Pride event and questioned, when did they make Nami, gay? When did that happen? Well, Legends of Runeterra. She has 2 card interactions, one for the male mermaid and one for a female mermaid. More or less, from what I can find, it does seem like she is with both of them. So, yeah, pretty simple. If you play the card game, that is. I honestly did not know this till I started working on these videos. Moving on, we have Set. This is another Legend of Runeterra line towards Aphelios. More or less, it's a cute little thing. He sounds like he is very excited, and yeah, keep in mind, this is not his first line towards Aphelios, but we will cover that in the skin section, because I needed lines in the skin section, and I was starting to put them in places they didn't belong. Now we have Aurelia, which, again, another interaction in Legend of Runeterra. Her card reaction with the Blossoming Blade. It's pretty cute, pretty simple, and again, it's very nice. Not much to it, though. It's just one of those interactions you'd only see if you play the card game. Next up, we have Lee Sin and Udyr, which, honestly, it's only Udyr's voice lines, because Lee Sin's voice lines are still the old ones he's had. However, at first, I thought this one could be up for debate, because base Udyr's voice lines could be depicted as somewhat lovers, or maybe just brotherly love. And then I heard Spirit Guard Udyr's reactions, and yeah, his adventures with Lee Sin were more than just his spiritual awakening, if you know what I mean. I will not apologize for that joke. Alright, moving on, though. Oh, this one's gonna probably get me some flack. It is for Fiora. And why do I say this? Well, many people believe Fiora, from her interactions and her story, seems to be lesbian. However, I, after looking into some things and really looking over her interactions and, well, her story, would argue that she's more asexual, if anything. First off, it's more the idea of, when it comes to interactions, she doesn't have any interactions like the others that hint towards liking anyone, honestly. She seems very much focused on her work, either running her family or perfecting dueling like she does. Growing up, she focused heavily on perfecting herself as a duelist. She would rather die than let someone decide her fate, and when she took over the family, she made most of her family members noble status just so they could improve bladecraft and the art of dueling. Honestly, it seems like someone who doesn't really care for sexuality or anything like that, and honestly, it kind of feels like it does fit in asexual more. One of the quotes as well even comments about emotions have no place in a duel. It clouds the sword play and can kill a greater swordsman, which, again, I interpret that as asexuality, sort of, but again, it could just be a skills-focused duelist. Another thing, though, as well, even after the guy seems to be cocky, arrogant, and assholey to her, she doesn't seem angry about that when she offers him to cut off his ear instead of fighting her. It felt like she was still focused the entire time on her family's honor and the duel itself, not really caring about what he was doing. One of the things I also want to bring up is the fact that many people point out that Swain, his voice line, is what people point out as the, oh, that clearly states that she's closeted. I don't think Fiora's the type of person who would be afraid to say her sexuality. Remember, this is the girl who decided that not before this big dinner party for the proposal, during, in front of multiple noble family, in front of what sounds to be the entire Crown Guard family, and in front of the king, basically saying, I'd rather die than let you pick who I marry. And when they challenged to duel her, she literally said, bet, and immediately accept. Again, I might be wrong. She could be lesbian. I might be wrong. She could be even just pansexual. But I really do feel like Fiora is the best person to be the first asexual champion of League of Legends. But that's all I gotta say on Fiora. Moving on, we have Samira and Misfortune, which is a bit more difficult. Starting off, looking at Samira's interactions, it doesn't feel like she really has any care what she says. Her positive comments usually seem just flirtatious in general. I really didn't see many interactions with her and a singular gender champion, and the only other thing I can point out is that in one of her in-game lines, she mentions a half-lover. However, that really doesn't mean much when the term lover is used for both genders, so yeah, I say it's up there what she is. Misfortune, on the other hand, is even worse. You see, in lore, the whole sexy, seductive bounty hunter pirate, yeah, that's sort of her manipulating people and tricking them. She did that to get close to kill Gangplank, get vengeance. And in many of her stories, such as the Shadows of Fortune, the Rune King game, and even the Sentinel event, Misfortune really doesn't show much of that whole seductive bounty hunter and pirate anymore. Again, that's difficult because in both the card game and in game, she's still the seductive bounty hunter. In the card game, she does flirt with appears to be one of her pirates, but she also is very flirtatious in base game and in the card. So yeah, I say it's up for debate. These two could be straight, pan, bisexual, lesbian. I don't know though. What I do know is the next champion's even worse. People fight a lot on Twitter I've seen over this one. Is she gay? Is she straight? Is she bisexual? Is she pansexual? The answer is she's none of them. Evelyn doesn't have a sexuality. Evelyn is a demon. It's all a bait so that she can torment you and eat you. So I don't know why people think she has a sexuality. Yes, she has a skin where she is tangling with Twisted Fate, but remember, that skin was out when Evelyn used to look blue. So yeah, again, difficult and confusing, and some people point out, what about the cards she has associated with her? She flirts with them. They're all demons, lesser demons under her control, and a lot of the things she talks to them about is their next victim or their next meal. So yeah, And again, because her whole thing is seduction to get prey, giving her a sexuality is like fighting over what fiddlesticks sexuality is. Simply put, when Evelyn calls you a snack, she's not calling you cute. She's being literal. Now with that out of the way, we're going to cover the last champion here in this section, and technically sort of cover them in the skin section as well, because, well, to put simply, a lot more details are in the skin section. Champion being Talia, and the fact that Talia is trans. And honestly, I looked through her interactions and I really couldn't find anything at first. And then I found out I was looking at the wrong champion interactions. The interactions that really hint at she being trans in game are from Nico and Swain. Nico commenting how she thought she didn't realize she's not the only one who could change, and Swain mentioning how she fears what she doesn't understand, that being herself. So yeah, but on top of that, even more evidence is that of the Star Guardian event, which I will say this now, this more information about Talia and the Fiddlestick skin are the only good thing that came out of the event. Fight me. But in the event, interaction with one of the Star Guardian members, basically saying that she feels way more comfortable in her Star Guardian uniform and such. And the biggest flag in the room is her sketchbook art, officially posted by the way, and in the corner you can see candy corn in the colors of the trans pride flag. So yeah, and even though I said earlier I wasn't going to mention the designers or writers, I will say that the designer did say they considered including her being trans during development. It just didn't make it to her release. So yeah, Talia is trans. Now we can move on to the skins, which most of these are going to be really quick. First off, Spirit Blossom set. He has a line towards Aphelios, pretty simple. But next up, we have Pulsefire, Echo, and Ezreal. And like I said before with something, I didn't know this story existed till doing this research. It does really hint that they might have had something in the past, and it's a nice story. Give it a read. And now we have KDA Seraphine, which, again, I didn't know KDA had comic till I did this research. Because everywhere I saw, they said that in this comic, it hinted at Seraphine having something for KDA Akali. That being said, however, I didn't fully see it. More so because in the scene with Akali, it's more of Akali talking and Seraphine reacting. And she reacts the same way in the other comic with Ben. So maybe Seraphine's pansexual or bi? Or, again, just reacting. It did just feel like she was only reacting to them talking. But side thing, actually though, I will say KDA, Ari, and Evelyn do have a scene in the comic where they are more or less what appears to be at Ari's house having dinner together. Very nice dinner, I'd say too. And it does feel like they're usually hinted at being together, so I'm gonna add that on there as well, because I can. Now moving on to the rest of Star Guardian, which out of all the fucking things to do research for, this was the second biggest pain. Almost the biggest pain, actually. Simply because I had to relive the Star Guardian event. Starting out, though, let's begin with the Star Guardian that's not involved in tormenting me in that event. Star Guardian Jinx. And yes, from her lines and some interactions and stories, it does really hint that she has a thing for luck. She mentions how Lux can make even boring beautiful, and even says when she dies, "Don't forget to miss me, Luck." And finally, in many of the stories, she really doesn't like Ezreal, and Ezreal flirts with Lux. So yeah, kinda heavily hinted at Jinx likes Lux. And no, I don't have any comments about what Lux thinks, because Lux doesn't have any interactions really. The skin came out by itself. So yeah, moving on though, Akali and Kai'Sa, which it's sort of a mess. To those who lived through the Star Guardian event, let me explain. There is the main story, and there are the side stories. These do not go well and well together. The side stories are more of a slice of life, while the main story is a bit more dramatic and action. And again, Akali and Kai'Sa sort of have the kind of anime style of they are friends leaning towards maybe coming together, and they don't really go too far past that. They give off very much heavy hints, though, of will they, won't they, and it really seems to be the will they. We just have to wait, though, probably for the next Star Guarding event, which, after the summer event, it's probably going to be a while. And now the part I have been dreading, because you probably noticed I have been missing 2 champions. This is the elephant in the room. So, let's talk about Vi and Caitlyn. As I mentioned before with Leona and Diana, having their lore and all their interactions being very complicated in trying to pin down if they are together or not, or were a thing even, Vi and Caitlyn are in the exact same spot. Starting off because someone's probably writing it down right now, saying, what about Arcane? Arcane isn't canon to League of Legends. 2 examples of proof that you'll need, probably. First off, Arcane's version of Sin. He seems misunderstood, willing to go too far with science to help someone we don't know about. His in-game lore? He is the equivalent of an SS scientist who worked in the camps during World War II. Vi in Arcane was locked away for years, missing her sister. Vi in lore doesn't remember her past. Jace didn't make Vi's gauntlets in canon. Silco isn't there. We have Renata. Hell, even Vi and Jinx being related isn't even confirmed in base League of Legends. Again, Vi and Caitlyn are in the same spot Leo and Diana have been. And many people will point out as well, like, what about the in-game interactions, or the card game interactions, or everything else? Well, I'm gonna go through it all. Starting off, the game lines for Vi. One of the lines that people always say is the go-to flirty line they use, the nice shot cupcake. That's said by Vi when she's shot by Caitlyn's ultimate and survived. It's more of a joking insult, if anything. On top of that, Vi has 2 custom taunts to Caitlyn, where she makes fun of the fact Caitlyn's British. Vi doesn't have really many nice things towards Caitlyn in game, and the way she talks to Caitlyn is somewhat how she talks to Jace the Power Slam bits with her ult. Moving on to Caitlyn, I thought, well, this would be a lot better because Caitlyn's update came around Arcane. No, she's pretty much the same with everyone. Her reactions towards Vi are somewhat the same as reactions towards Jace. Even when she kills Vi, she sounds the same way with Jace. And you know what's even more of a kick in the ass? Her killing Seraphine has more emotion than when she kills Vi or Jace. And again, this is in base League, and that update for her lines came out around Arcane. And I thought, okay, maybe Legendary Terror would be better. No, Vi doesn't have any custom reactions towards Kate. She just refers to Caitlyn as Cupcake over and over and over. And hell, she technically has more of a flirty interaction with Misfortune in the card game. As for Caitlyn, again, her reactions are a bit colder. She does seem disappointed, but not disappointed as in like a love, or disappointed in like, damn, I gotta do this. And again, similar reaction towards when she has to sling to Jace. And speaking of Cupcake, the line from Arcane, "You're sweet like a cupcake." That's only in Arcane. Anything I could think about or look for to find out why Vi in League calls her Cupcake, the only thing that really comes up is the fact that Caitlyn has a bunch of cupcakes for her traps. And there are 2 more things that really push this towards the idea of Riot hinted at that could be a thing. For example, their V-Day skin. What about that? Well, if you look at the skins, they usually have descriptions of their version of their lore. And for Vi, Caitlyn, even Amumu, they have a love letter depicted towards that champion. Vi has a love letter from Caitlyn in her skin, and Caitlyn has one from Vi. However, the one from Vi, Caitlyn's really, really mean. Vi feels like she's being treated like a gutter rat, so yeah. Also, if we're gonna go off V-Day skins, Valentine's Day skins, as an example of couples, all these V-Day skins are kinda weird. And also, Vi already had one with Fiora, so yeah. Again, the only thing that really cements the idea that League is pushing it towards them being together in canon is them being on the poster this year. Because if you question, what about their lore? They don't have that. They don't have anything. Nothing. And honestly, I was hoping that this year Riot would release a story for them, but we had no story this year. So yeah, hopefully we get a story soon. I do want to say Vi and Caitlyn are a thing, but again, as of right now, they are the elephant in the room because they are the equivalents of they don't like each other, they're just friends, they're just work associates, or they're gay as hell. Thanks, Riot. And that will do it. I hope you all enjoyed and have a great Pride Month. If there's a champion I missed or a skin I missed, leave a comment down below. If you enjoyed, like, share, and subscribe for more of my stuff. And I'll see you all again. Peace.